Not all love is real. Some people do not love you. They love the way you love them. They crave the warmth of your presence, the comfort of your attention, the security of being desired. But they do not truly see you. They never ask who you are when the noise fades and the lights go dark. They only show up when you shine. And when you need them most, they are already gone. Have you ever felt like someone cherished the version of you that gave, smiled, and stayed strong, but turned away the moment you needed something in return? It is a quiet kind of pain, realizing that the connection you trusted might have been a performance, not a partnership, not a bond built in truth. Epictetus said, "If someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." But when feelings cloud our reason, we hold on to illusions because they feel safer than the truth. We forgive silence and explain away absence. We romanticize what should have been seen clearly. Stoic wisdom invites us to look again. Not with our hopes, but with our eyes. It reminds us that truth brings peace, even if it breaks our comfort first. Because real love does not disappear when you fall. It does not wait for the perfect version of you to show up. It stays when you are unsure, when you are quiet, when you are not performing. Let me share a story. One not just of heartbreak, but of awakening. A story about a dancer and a shadow that followed close behind. A shadow that whispered affection but withheld presence. A shadow that echoed love but never meant it. Here is how to see what has always been there. The dancer and the shadow. The dancer lived for movement, not just in rhythm and music, but in connection. Every gesture held meaning, every glance a silent conversation. The dancer did not speak much about love, but lived it. In how they gave without hesitation, in how they stayed when others wavered. Then came the shadow. At first it looked nothing like a shadow. It looked like warmth, like presence, like someone who understood without explanation. The dancer, open and full of hope, welcomed the presence. The shadow spoke softly. It listened. It reflected back every word, every laugh, every silent need. It seemed perfect, too perfect. At first it felt like love, but over time something shifted, not in the words, but in the space between them. The dancer began to feel hollow in moments that used to feel full. The conversations repeated themselves, but lacked meaning. The eyes that once lit up now looked distant, even when they smiled. The dancer tried harder, gave more, reached deeper, but nothing changed. The connection began to feel like dancing alone, movements still graceful but missing a partner. So the dancer left, not with resentment but with questions, and found a quiet place far from the noise. A hillside where silence spoke louder than any voice. There, in the stillness, lived a Stoic, an elder who observed more than they spoke. The dancer asked, "Why does it feel like love when it is not?" The Stoic answered with a story, not of people but of roles. There is a kind of person, the Stoic said, who does not love you, but loves the role you play in their story. They fall in love with the light you cast, not the fire that created it. They need your presence to reflect their own worth, not to see yours. The dancer stayed quiet. They are the shadow, the Stoic continued. And a shadow only exists when your light shines. The moment you step into darkness, they disappear. It made sense. The feeling of absence when it mattered most. The silence when vulnerability needed a voice. And the danger, the Stoic said, is mistaking a shadow for a companion. Because it follows you, you think it cares, but it only stays as long as the sun is behind you. The dancer thought back to all the smiles, all the moments that once felt sincere. And slowly the realization came. It was not love. It was reflection, temporary, dependent, conditional. The Stoic placed a stone in the dancer's hand, smooth, heavy, and real. "Let this remind you," they said, "that truth carries weight. And if something disappears when tested, it was never meant to stay." The dancer held the stone tightly. It was not bitterness that settled in the heart. It was clarity, a new kind of stillness, one that did not ache for answers because it finally understood the question. Some people do not walk with you. They walk beside your light, and when that light dims, they are already gone. Better to know now than later. Better to lose the shadow than lose yourself. First thing, they mirror you, not know you. The next morning, the Stoic returned carrying a small object wrapped in cloth. Without saying a word, the Stoic handed it to the dancer. When unwrapped, it revealed a mirror. But this mirror was different. Its surface was clouded, not by dust or time, but by design. It reflected light, yet the image was distorted. Clear outlines, but no detail. Shape without truth. The Stoic said, "This mirror is what many people use in relationships. They do not offer themselves. They reflect what they think you want to see. They give you back your own image, not their own soul." The dancer tilted the mirror toward the light. It caught the outline of their face but blurred the eyes. The features looked familiar but empty. The Stoic continued, "The first sign that someone is pretending to love you is that they mirror you. They say what pleases you. They adopt your interests. They mimic your values. But if you stop performing, if you stop leading the dance, they have nothing real to offer. Their presence depends on your projection." A memory stirred. The dancer recalled long conversations that felt deep at first but hollow later. The other person had always agreed, always smiled, always echoed the dancer's thoughts. But when asked a meaningful question, they deflected. When it was time to share, they remained vague, never vulnerable. They knew what to say, but not what you needed, the Stoic said gently. They nodded to your words, but never reached for your heart. The dancer whispered, "So it was not connection. It was imitation." "Yes," the Stoic replied. "And imitation is not love. It is performance. It is the art of becoming what the other person desires, not what is honest." The Stoic paused and lifted a hand to the mirror. When someone truly loves you, they do not reflect you. They reveal themselves. They are willing to be misunderstood. They are not afraid to disagree. They do not mirror your feelings to stay close. They share their truth, even if it risks distance. The dancer asked, "But what if someone mirrors out of fear? What if they are afraid to be rejected?" "That may be true," the Stoic nodded, "but love requires courage, and fear cannot sustain what it imitates. Sooner or later, the performance breaks, the mask slips, and when that happens, you will be left wondering who you were ever with." The wind moved softly through the trees. "We are not disturbed by appearances," the Stoic said, "but by our judgments of them." The dancer looked again into the mirror. It was beautiful in form, but meaningless in depth. It gave comfort, but not truth. Love that is real does not agree with everything you say. It asks questions. It challenges you gently. It wants to know what you fear, not just what you admire. It listens to your silence, not just your voice. Another memory surfaced. A moment when the dancer had cried quietly, unsure of what to say. The other person had filled the space with compliments, with smiles, with noise, but never asked, "What is hurting you?" Never stayed in the silence. Never dared to enter the deeper layers. When you stop smiling, the Stoic said, does their attention fade? When you are not entertaining, do they grow restless? If so, then they love your light, not your shadow. They love your music, not your stillness. The dancer felt something fall into place. A truth they had avoided. A pattern they had excused. It was not malice. It was shallowness. And shallowness cannot hold a soul. The Stoic offered one final reflection. A mirror is not evil. It serves a purpose, but do not confuse it with a window. A mirror shows you yourself. A window shows you the world beyond. Love must be a window, not a mirror. It must open into another life, another truth, another heart. The dancer nodded slowly. In time, the Stoic said, you will learn to feel the difference. When someone mirrors you, you feel flattered at first, but then comes the loneliness. Because in all their agreement, you realize they never asked what you were truly feeling. But when someone knows you, even their silence makes you feel safe. The dancer looked into the blurred mirror one last time, then turned it face down on the ground, and walked forward with new eyes. Second thing, they withhold when you need them most. The rain fell softly across the hillside. The dancer and the Stoic sat beneath the wide shelter of an old tree. A gentle wind brushed against the leaves above, bringing with it a kind of quiet that held more meaning than speech. The Stoic picked up a folded umbrella resting beside them. With deliberate slowness, the Stoic opened it and handed it to the dancer. The dancer looked at it. The fabric was torn in several places. One side hung loose. The handle was cracked. "This," said the Stoic, "is what some people offer when you are in pain. It looks like care, but it fails you the moment you need it most." The dancer held the umbrella above, and rain passed through as if nothing were there. "That," the Stoic continued, "is the second sign. They withhold when you are most vulnerable. When the storms of life come, they vanish. But when the sun returns, they show up smiling, as if they had never left." The dancer said nothing. There were too many memories. Moments when everything felt heavy. When silence filled the phone. When support was nowhere to be found. Yet those same people reappeared during bright days, offering warmth that no longer felt real. "Real love does not disappear when the skies turn grey," the Stoic said. "It does not wait for perfection. It is not afraid of discomfort." The dancer asked, "Why do they leave during the hard times?" The Stoic replied, "Because your pain requires something they do not want to give. Presence, patience, selflessness. These are not always pleasant. And some people love pleasure more than they love principle." The dancer recalled the quiet nights filled with self-doubt, the long stretches of solitude, the absence of check-ins, the empty comfort of excuses. They remembered how success brought celebration, but weakness brought withdrawal. "They do not want to carry your weight," the Stoic said. "They want to enjoy your rise, not walk through your struggle. They want to be beside strength, not sit with sorrow." There was a long pause. The dancer looked at the broken umbrella in their hands. Water still dripped from its edges. The storm was not violent, but the shelter was false. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the Stoic said, "You will meet people who love pleasure more than principle." The words did not feel like blame. They felt like truth. When someone loves you for what you offer, they disappear when you stop offering. When someone loves you for who you are, they sit with you even when you have nothing left to give. The dancer clenched the handle of the broken umbrella. It was still beautiful in design, but useless in purpose. "They may come back," the Stoic added. "But that return is not always love. Sometimes it is habit. Sometimes it is convenience. Sometimes it is the desire to feel important again without doing the work." The dancer asked, "What does it mean when they return after the storm has passed?" The Stoic replied, "It means they miss the feeling, not the reality. They long for what you made them feel about themselves, not what you were truly going through." The wind picked up slightly, and rain brushed more boldly against the leaves. "The most dangerous silence," the Stoic said, "is the silence that happens when you are breaking. It tells you everything you need to know about who can be trusted, who can be counted on, who truly sees you." The dancer closed the broken umbrella. "It is not just the absence that hurts. It is the pretending that follows. The smile that says nothing happened, the warmth that feels borrowed. The way they return like silence was never there." The Stoic looked toward the valley below. "And that pretending," they said, "is not love. It is avoidance. It is the wish to skip over the hard parts, to rewrite the story without accountability." The dancer understood. There had been times when forgiveness had come too quickly, when absence had been explained away by timing, by stress, by distraction. But deep down the wound remained, not because someone left, but because they chose to leave when it mattered most. "You cannot build something lasting with someone who only shows up for the celebration," the Stoic said. "Love is not a guest at your victory. It is the one who walks beside you when the road is empty." The rain began to lighten. The dancer set the broken umbrella down beside them. "I wanted it to be enough," the dancer admitted. "Even when they left, I told myself they cared, that they would come back stronger, that they just needed time." The Stoic turned gently to face the dancer. "Time does not create character. It only reveals it." The dancer sat quietly, absorbing the truth. "You deserve someone who brings warmth when the world turns cold," the Stoic said. "Someone who holds your fear without turning away. Someone who sees your weakness and does not flinch." And with that, the dancer began to understand. Love that disappears when tested is not love. It is convenience. And presence that only returns for comfort is not presence at all. It is absence disguised. What should you do? The rain had passed, but the weight of truth remained. The dancer sat on a flat stone near the edge of the hill, eyes fixed on the shifting sky. There was no anger. Only a quiet question that rose from within. If it is not real love, the dancer asked, what am I supposed to do? The Stoic sat beside them, silent for a long while. Then spoke softly, you cannot force truth from a lie. You cannot turn a shadow into a home. The dancer turned toward the Stoic, listening. There are people who wear affection like a costume. They speak the words of love, but only when it benefits them. They perform tenderness, but never invest presence. What they give is shape to control, not to connect. And what they withhold is never random. It is meant to keep you chasing, doubting, reaching. The dancer nodded slowly. It was all too familiar. The long periods of confusion, the hope that small gestures meant more than they did, the excuses made in quiet hours to explain away emptiness. You must not hold on to beautiful lies just because you are afraid of the silence that follows truth, the Stoic said. That silence is not emptiness. It is healing. It is space where something real can begin. The dancer asked, but what if I still care about them? The Stoic answered gently, caring is not a contract. You can care and still walk away. You can grieve the illusion and still choose clarity. Do not confuse loyalty with self-abandonment. There was a long pause. Seneca once wrote, only time reveals a dishonest heart. The dancer looked up. The wind had calmed. The clouds drifted open, revealing light that felt earned. You are not here to rescue someone who chooses deception, the Stoic continued. You are here to live in truth. And anyone who demands that you abandon yourself to keep them comfortable is not offering love. They are demanding a performance. The dancer remembered all the times they had shrunk to keep the peace, smiled to avoid questions, pretended to be fine when something inside was breaking. You must not stay in places where your presence is only valued when it is pleasing. Love is not about keeping the role alive. It is about being seen without the mask. If someone cannot sit with your silence, they have no place in your music. The Stoic reached down and picked up a small stone from the ground. Let this represent your clarity, they said. It may be small, but it is solid. It may feel simple, but it is strong. Carry this, not their excuses. The dancer closed their hand around the stone. You are not walking away from love, the Stoic said. You are walking away from something that dressed itself in love's language, but spoke only in need and fear. The dancer stood slowly. You must not wait for someone to treat you well before deciding you deserve peace. You must choose it first, and let anyone who refuses to meet you there stay behind. The dancer breathed deeply, not as escape but as return, to the self that had been waiting beneath the doubt, to the truth that had always been whispering beneath the noise. What should you do when love turns out to be a lie? You stop waiting for them to prove otherwise. You stop explaining away their absence. You stop hoping that shadow will finally become shelter. And you begin again. In silence. In honesty. In peace. The strength to walk away. The dancer walked alone along a narrow path that curved down the hillside. Each step felt deliberate, not heavy but honest. The stone from the Stoic still rested in one hand, warm now from the heat of their skin. There was no dramatic goodbye. No need for final words. Some endings do not require conflict, only clarity. It was not the loss of love that brought pain. It was the realization that love had never truly been there. What had felt like connection was a performance. What had seemed like care was a reflection, conditional and fleeting. But the absence no longer felt cruel. It felt clean. The dancer did not feel abandoned. They felt released. The strength to walk away does not come from pride. It comes from understanding. From seeing that staying in something false does not make it true. From knowing that shrinking yourself for someone else's comfort is not loyalty. It is self-betrayal. Real love does not ask you to perform. It invites you to be. It does not vanish when you are wounded. It draws nearer. It does not mirror you. It meets you. It does not hide in the light. It stands with you in the dark. As the dancer reached the bottom of the hill, the sun broke fully through the clouds. There was no applause, no audience, just stillness. But it felt like peace. Better to walk alone in truth than to stay accompanied by illusion. If someone's love fades when your light dims, it was never love. It was dependency. If someone cannot sit with your silence, they were never listening. If someone needs you to play a role to remain by your side, they were never beside you to begin with. Freedom begins the moment you stop performing for someone who was never watching. It begins where pretending ends and your truth finally begins. Conclusion. Have you ever mistaken performance for love? Have you ever clung to someone who only stayed when you smiled, but vanished when you cried? If so, you are not alone. Many carry the ache of being mirrored but never known, of being needed, but never truly loved. You deserve better than empty echoes. You deserve presence that stays. You deserve love that grows in silence, not just in celebration. If this story touched something inside you, share your experience in the comments. Your truth might be the light someone else is waiting for. Remember this. Real love does not hide behind masks. It does not disappear in the rain. It stands in the light, and it stays when the music fades. And if someone only pretended to love you, let them go. Because the love that is meant for you will never require you to become someone else just to keep it. Let that be the beginning of your return to yourself. Real love will not ask you to prove yourself. It will meet you where you are, not where you pretend to be.